Welcome to the Newswire with me, your host, Tyler Dickerhoof. Today, producer Alex is here. We're going to try something a little bit new, maybe not quite so much different topics, but maybe not so much political. We're going to talk more about leadership, displays of leadership that are really kind of polarizing. And, so we have a couple lined up. We're going to play a couple clips. Hopefully these turn out. If not, just bear with us. But the first one that I want to go to, Alex, is Coach Curt Cignetti. If you don't know who Coach Curt Cignetti is, he was a head coach at James Madison. A couple years ago, he then got the head coaching job at Indiana after phenomenal success at JMU. Comes to Indiana last year, first year. He gets them into the college football playoff. They lose in their second game. They kind of surprised everyone in the first game. They lose, and then they come back this year. They're the number 2 ranked team in the country. He just signed a massive extension.
$93 million.
$93 million, $11.8 million a year, the third highest coach in college football. He's polarizing. When his news conference of going to Indiana, his news conference, and people are like, well, can you win? And he's like, Google me. I win. And there's just kind of this tongue-in-cheek, confident arrogance. But I want to play this clip. This was on a show with Joel Klatt, who is a announcer on Fox. On his podcast, he had Curt Cignetti. And I saw this clip, and I talked to my friend Dave Christensen, who's been on the show before. And this, to me, is the epitome of coaching. Go ahead and roll that clip, Alex.
All right.
I've been very fortunate to have great consistency on my coaching staff.
Yeah.
My offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, I hired as part-time coaches at the D2 level for about $8,000. And those guys have been with me, 11, 12 years. And that would be Bryant Haynes and Mike Shanahan. And Grant Kane, my special teams coordinator, has been with me about 6, 7 years. And, we're in the top 5 in the country lately at the end of the year, in teams. And we've been really, really good this season. But a number of other people in the organization have been with me a long time. So they know how we do things. They know how I am, the expectation level. I try to keep those guys fresh. When we're in here, we're efficient, we're organized, we're working, we don't waste time. And when we're done, I tell them go home. And I'm the same way with the team in meetings and on the practice field. We're a really short practice operation. We'll have about a 35-minute walkthrough on Mondays, and on Fridays we'll have about a 25-minute walkthrough.
All right, so the point that I want to take away there from that example of leadership, his coaches now who are providing tremendous value, right? His key assistants at Indiana University, he hired as part-time coaches. They got paid $8,000. They're probably making into the millions now. They should be, right? Their quality of coaching. The loyalty is what impresses me. So you can see the character, and I think the demeanor that Curt shared there is that doesn't sound like an overly aggressive and arrogant person as you hear that interview.
Well, since we spoke about him a week ago, I was not. I don't follow Indiana football. Just
You miss it.
It was.
As a Buckeye, you're missing out.
Yeah, it's a program that's known for basketball. Indiana Hoosiers. Movie's been made about them. And I started reading more about his journey, and he's been coaching a while and coaching lower levels of college football, and then was a coaching assistant at Alabama under Saban 2010, and really worked his way up. The guy's 64 years old. He's worked in football for a very long time, and I think for the most part, he has organization. It was one of the top things that came out in a lot of he loves to be hyper organized, and which I think is so key and important of when you're coaching or leading any type of organization, making sure that you can get in and out of the building when things are really organized. If things are running in any sort of chaos, how could you do a 25-minute walkthrough on a Monday?
You played at Baylor. Right.
Yeah.
And we talked to get a little bit about your coach, but if you remember back, how long was your walkthrough?
We were there for probably an hour.
Okay. All right. And it's a little bit of, your practices were maybe 2.5 hours, I'm going to guess, 2.5 to 3, which are pretty typical. Even at the high school level, I know my son, on their short practices, they're about an hour 45. Their longer practices, they're 2.5. And, this idea that the secondary clip of just how organized, and I cut it off before we got there. Let me interject this. He talks about why are we that way? Because I want my guys to get home and get to their family. I want my guys, my coaches, my players, I want them to, have a social life. I want them to be able to study. I want my coaches to be able to go home and be dads, to be part of their family.
Absolutely.
And, as a leader, man, this idea that, so often in coaching, you follow college coaches. I met a coach from, he coached at an Indiana university earlier this year. And he was telling me that the entire staff that got hired to move there were just renting apartments and their families stayed wherever they lived because they were going to be working so many long hours that it wasn't even worth their family coming.
That's crazy.
And it's just like unbelievable. So the real point that I want to share that I was so impressed, we talk a little bit about, he's a little tongue in cheek. He's a little bit, you get some clips of him, poking the bear, right? But yet if you have coaches that have been with you that long and are that loyal, one of the other things he doesn't talk about there, but you look this up, when he moved from James Madison University, which is an FCS football championship series, not the level below the playoff, he brought over 50 players with him that all transferred to Indiana University.
It's crazy.
To think of the loyalty from coaches to players to the amount of success. And here's the ultimate litmus test for me. You can scan, you can search, you can go ask anyone that knows college football. And there is no one that had Indiana on the chart for being the number 2 most talented team in the country. No way, on no metrics, nowhere how. They're probably, I don't know if they're top 25 talent. Maybe. But they're the number 2 legitimate team who just knocked off Oregon, who's supposedly was supposed to be, for numerous weeks was got votes as the number 1 team.
Yeah.
And this is the test to me, is that much loyalty. And when you outperform your talent level, that's a tip to great leadership.
Great leadership, great coaching. The fact that you got players wanting to travel with him from James Madison, that's Virginia, I believe.
Correct.
To Indiana, which, I have never been to Indiana, so I don't know if there's a whole lot there. I'm sure it's a fun little college.
It's Big Ten.
It's Big Ten. I'm sure they got some good things going on.
Yeah.
But to get 50 players, coaches that have been there 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years with him, attention to detail he talks about a lot is another thing. Discipline. And if you watch his press conferences, he always tips his hat to the other team. They're a real good team. He says positive things about the opponents. He's not like, oh, they suck, we're going to go.
Yeah.
When did we talk about that? Maybe a couple of weeks ago when there's certain people that rip the other team or the other
maybe
business.
This is a transition to the other clip that we have. There's a group of leaders in one state in the country that their choice is to, a little bit of politics. We're just using examples here.
Yeah.
But their choice, instead of, hey, this is what we need to do better for our team, for the people around us. Hey, my team, they were getting $8,000 a year and we worked our butt off and now they're getting millions. They deserve it. We have one of the top 5, special teams by metrics in the country. Dude, they're hyper successful. Why are they successful? Because obviously organization, but freedom, autonomy to be successful. And if he said that about the other team, he's probably saying that within the building. The same as if you're tearing down the other team, you're probably doing that within your own team and building.
Yeah.
Now the segue to the next clip.
Do you want to tee it up? I'm going to pull it up right now.
We can tee it up. So this showed up a couple weeks ago. There was a clip from this lady, if you're seeing the screen, Katie Porter. She is a candidate running for governor in the state of California. And she did an interview with a CBS reporter that a lot of other people did. She was asking some questions. And all of a sudden, this lady said, no more, I can't handle this. Well, that brought in everyone to, look at all of her other videos and examples portrayal of her leadership. Go ahead, Alex, roll the clip.
Here we go. So she's about midway through this interview, and you'll see someone in the back right corner pop up.
And 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems, and the state could lose. Get out of my fucking shot.
I wanted to tell you that that's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay, you also were in my shot before that. Stay out of my shot. Okay, I'm going to start again with electric vehicles.
All right, so just the contrast here.
Okay, I'm going to start
Right.
again.
We have the contrast of Curt Cignetti, right? And the clip that, in an interview and, with pretty low key, but man, the audacity of
I
someone
would never
to
do that.
be, to just unload. Now, I'm not perfect. I've never been perfect. I can't say, but I've learned. And I also can sit here and say, if I act like that, no one's following me. No one wants to be around me. No one's listening to me. And I'm not influencing anyone.
Yeah.
And I think the great disparity in these examples of leadership, I made this comment to a few people is, doing the work that I do, meaning speaking about leadership, going through my own personal development, helping others go through that. I don't have to search for content. I don't have to search for examples, whether it is college football coaches, politicians, high school leaders, high school administrators. I don't have to go look for it. It just falls right in your lap of what to do, not to do. I just saw this picture earlier today of a high school administrator, a high school principal. And, there's this picture of them opening up the yearbooks, right? And I just happened to be scanning through. You and I were doing other things and see this pop across on Facebook. And the kids are just kind of like, what are we doing here? And this administrator is front and circle in the picture and they're smiling and it's all about them. And it's just like, dude, you don't get it. It's not about you. It's about the kids. It's about, giving the gift of the yearbook to the kids. It's the spotlight on them, not the spotlight on you. And I come back to this clip about Katie Porter and it's like, hey, Katie, if that's how you lead your inner circle,
That's
the people
her
that work for you,
right?
What are you spinning to everyone else? Are you familiar with Kat Cole? Kat Cole, she was the CEO of Yum Brands, which owned Hooters, a few other restaurants.
Okay.
And so she started at Hooters. It's an interesting career journey. And part of that is she would go to Australia, and how she started is she worked there in college and then she'd go open up these new restaurants, and very successful. And she now is the COO, I believe, CEO maybe of AG Greens. Okay. And one of the things that she talks about is every leader needs to get as close to the transaction as possible. You need to get as close to the ground. So let's use the example of Curt Cignetti. If Curt wants to find out what's really going on the team, he needs to go down in the locker room and talk to players. I have no doubt if players are following him from James Madison to Indiana, from like greater DC to the middle of nowhere farm country, they're doing so because they have a relationship. They know this dude cares about me. He's going to do me right. He's going to, take care of me. He's going to make sure that my education is a priority in my playing, all those things.
Yeah.
That's evidenced by their
future,
his
their
influence.
future. They could be part of his coaching staff or other coaches there.
Absolutely.
In the
Yeah. So then when you look at this lady that we share, it's
Katie
like,
Porter.
Do you think anyone on her staff is going out there and saying, man, this lady, and maybe she does, I don't know, but the clips we've seen, the examples we've seen really show that it's all about me.
It's, and what that woman was she was trying to do was, she was saying something, Katie Porter was saying something incorrect. She was giving incorrect information, and that staffer was just trying to give her the correct information.
Yeah.
If you listen in. And then all you hear is expletive, get out of the way. And it doesn't matter. Right. And it's like, Oh my! How would you feel if your boss just ripped you and for everyone in the whole world to see? Now that clip's gone extremely viral.
Here's the interesting part. You've been in production. I've done some production. Sometimes we will be, different podcasts, different videos. We'll just hit record and then cut the video because it's easier than going, click, click. That's what was going on with Katie. She was recording a video and somebody behind the camera was recording it. And then all of a sudden the staffer comes in and said, hey, let me correct you, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then she goes, well, let's start back over here, meaning we're going to start, enter back in the clip. So everything that tells me is someone on her staff does not like her so much that they leaked the raw video because they wanted people to understand and see what this lady's really like.
Yeah. And that is, and for how long will people ignore it, right? You're going to be voting for this person to her leadership style and skills, and then taking that into the public realm where she's representing the people.
Yeah.
And how she treats her own staffers. How do you think she's going to treat complete strangers she doesn't even know? How do you trust someone like that?
Well, I mean, I think what it points to me is, I don't know this absolutely, but it's kind of, it's the chameleon effect. Yeah. I will be whatever I need to be in front of whoever to get what I want. Not I'm going to be the, excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to be the person that others need me to be.
Yeah.
And, it's such a sliver. Again, I'm not perfect. My wife was reminding me on some of the content. She goes, Tyler, you say that you used to be intense. And I'm like, well, I'm still intense. Like that's still there. There's no, disavow of my intensity. My intensity will get the best of me at times where it is, I push a little too hard. Katie Porter has a level of intensity. We saw that, right? Curt Cignetti has a level of intensity. But what I recognize is that just like the studio lights shining on me, is they're bright so you can see me. Now, if it was in the middle of the night and I'm trying to sleep, those bright lights do not help any. That's the difference between, I think, Curt's intensity, Katie's intensity, and understanding how to dial it back and where that comes from. There's a difference there as opposed to being very abrasive and attacking as opposed to full of belief and like passion.
Yeah, no, I it's not, for me, it's not even the intensity, because intensity, some of it can be passionate. It's somewhat emotional intelligence, right? Of being cognizant of, hey, someone's in my shot, right? I see them. It's pissing me off, but then going, hey, let me stop the recording.
All right. Let's just, the next time your daughter walks into you, are you going to flip out like that at your daughter? Because it's no different.
No. Or my son. What I'll do is I'll talk to them, and I'll talk to my wife off camera and just say, hey guys, I'm in a meeting, please just be quiet or go somewhere else. And that's it. And happens all the time.
Honey comes over to visit every once in a while.
And it's like, if something that small can trigger you, you have to then go, okay, whoa, like, all right, what's wrong? Why did it's, I don't know. That to me is a signal of like, all right, we need, and that have to dig deeper but it all stemmed from the CBS interview she did, where, and Tyler, you might know the story better than I do, but where she was asked a slew of questions and I think abruptly ended the interview.
Yeah. So there was a CBS interview, it was from an affiliate in California, I believe, local. And they were interviewing all of the gubernatorial candidates.
Yes.
7 candidates, I believe. And as this interviewer kind of says, like, hey, this is the question. Do you feel like, it was essentially, let me get this right. How are you going to get the vote from the right, the Republican, the more conservative?
Right. That's great.
And she stopped the interview because she's like, I don't need to answer that. Why are you going to? And one of her comments about not answering is, why is there 7 follow-ups to every question? I'm like, I sit into a question type arena. I do that as a podcast host, and that's good. That's what you want to do, is ask the follow-up so you can dig a little bit deeper. And the fact that it's not, softballs and just kind of, this question, everyone else answer this question. Why are you going to follow up? It's like, because that way people can get to know you. And that's what the reporter goes on
That's
to
a reporter's
continue to
job.
say.
That's a
And,
journalist's
you know,
job.
ultimately she goes on and on and on. I'm going to cut this interview. It was like, why? Like, what are you like?
What are you running
it,
from?
It kind of goes on a little bit more in this conversation. It's like, well, I don't need to get them. I don't need to get their vote. It's like, all right, maybe by pure numbers, you can sit there and say that. If 100% of your party voted for you, maybe you would not need your votes because of the political, you know, shift difference in California. But this is what kills me about politics is I think there's often it'd be like Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti saying, you know, he mentioned 3 different coaches, his defensive coordinator, his offensive coordinator, his special teams coach. Those 3 coaches affect every single player on the team. And he talked about all 3 of those coaches. Mm-hmm. All 3 of them are important to them winning and succeeding. Now, does that mean that every player is going to play? Every player is, you know, going to travel with them? No. But you know what? You need the entire team. And I think if we took that approach to politics, and it's like, yeah, there may be only 45 players that play on Saturday.
Yeah.
But there's 100 on the team. There is, you know, 70 some that travel. And if I don't care about the other 30 and just the 45, what happens when they get injured? That next guy's not ready. So as a politician in this great example, if I only care about my voters and not the rest of them, then I'm not looking out for the entire team. Yeah. And I think that's what, to me, it comes down to is like, hey, look out for the whole team. Now, you may have a difference. Hey, you know, I'm going to look out for the team, but if you're not a starter, you know what? My interaction with you is going to look different. No different in politics. Hey, if you're a part of my party, then I'm going to probably come ask you for money. And if you're not part of my party, I'm not going to ask you for money. But yet, you're still on the team.
There's a respect, right? There's an acknowledgement of somebody, of their work and effort, like from a sports example, or just a mutual respect, you know, and cordialness to them. Like, hey, how's it going? Good, great. Just an acknowledgement that they're there, like they're working hard. Huh?
You treat them like humans?
Yes, Tyler. You treat them like a human being, which I think, you know,
why? They don't agree with you.
They don't agree with you. Everything in this. Oh my God!
We didn't want to
get on this tangent because
you know there was
the
No Kings rally over the weekend, and there was an interview that's gone around, and this lady, you know, pretty much again like a lot of other leaders on certain parties have incited violence.
Oh, totally.
And she compares Charlie Kirk to Hitler and, you know, again, celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination, someone so horrible, so vile, so disgusting, they should be dead like Hitler. And it's just like
horrible. I don't get it.
The idea that, you know, we can't even, you know, it's probably the same conversation that gets into the proponents of the death penalty as opposed to those that would prefer life incarceration. I've never myself had to sit there and weigh that balance. Now, as a Christian, you know, there's an idea of, you know, don't take a life. And there's that element, of course, that I subscribe to, but it also is when you can sit and, you know, and so egregiously in an interview, in a conversation with someone saying, yeah, they do. I'm lost. I'm lost for words.
And just the thoughtfulness of like, hey, listen, I didn't agree with a word that man said or his values, but he had little kids. He had a family, and those daughters will grow up without a father. You know, I think that's horrible. You know, that should never happen. Like,
I mean, I want to put a sports twin on it. I want to put a sports twist on it. You've competed in a lot of games between, you know, your years of growing up, and there are people that you really don't like that are on the other team. That, you know what, if they happen to get hurt and they're not playing, okay. But all of a sudden that player gets, you know, football gets hit and they start what happens to other players. We've seen this. They lay motionless on the field or they're convulsing. To celebrate that is as inhuman as the example we just used, and no one would tolerate that because that's not sportsmanship. That's not what we do. It isn't even if you look at the very, very, I would say, aggressive and almost brutal MMA, right? And there's elements of
brutal.
that wouldn't even be applauded in that arena, right? If someone is to the point of convulsions, like they stop it, and as you've seen those cases, the other fighter usually is like, oh wow, what just happened, right? And I think that's where we're at. This element is like, I'm dumbfounded that as a collective group, that is not more
I think it's
cognizant of those players, and like,
and I see
come on,
it's on, and I listen, it's on both sides. You see it on both sides. There's no sportsmanship. I mean, there's no sportsmanship in politics. It seems to be evaporated from any sign of life, which is sad, to be honest with you.
Well,
it's
part of the element of the the No Kings rally as well was, some of the things that have been talked about, the Free Palestine, everything else, is like, maybe it's not real effective yet, but the last I knew, those parties came together last week and have a tentative agreement. Now, there's a little bit of like, maybe it's not there yet, but it's like, how can you continue to attack when movement's been done? I don't get it. And it comes back to, this idea of what should leadership look like. And, I may not always agree with leaders, right? But I would say this, the one thing that I will always appreciate in leadership is integrity and honesty. Meaning integrity, it's always, there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And at the same point, the honesty of, I screwed up. I did not handle that right. Man, there's so much grace for people that acknowledge that. If, Katie Porter has tried to do that, she's tried to say, that wasn't right. It's great. If that's true, that's awesome. And, and I applaud that. If we look at the stuff that's gone on in some of the other races that, people that come forward and like, man, I just heard this morning. George Santos. Do you know George Santos? George Santos was a New York representative who was incarcerated. I believe his sentence was 7 years for a bunch of fraud. Just dirty.
Raising, funds.
Yeah,
that
fraud.
were never,
just fraud. Yeah. And I heard an interview because his sentence was commuted by President Trump. And he is committed to prisoner reform, everything else. And there was an interview. It's like, are you going to get back to politics? I'm like, no. I've been given so much grace. What I did was deplorable. I need to continue. Just the remorse of like understanding it. And, now you can sit there and say, well, is it true or not? It's like, genuinely, it sounded like he did. Now, time will tell. We don't know. But it's kind of, again, back into this idea of people will follow. Yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah.
People will follow leaders that tell the truth rather than have all the right answers.
Yeah. And it's funny. I was trying to find a clip. There's been a bunch of viral videos of people from the No Kings rallies over the weekend, and one of them was a young kid who was there getting asked questions. I don't know if you saw this. And he's like, "Why are you here?" It's like, "Because we don't like Trump." He's like, "Why not?" He's like, "I don't know. That's just what they said.
That's what everyone else is doing. That's what I mean." Which I appreciate the honesty, because when you're a kid, sometimes that's all you know. It's like, oh, we don't know. Like, I heard it from my friends. I heard it from my mom. I heard it from my dad. I heard it from my, uncle, grandma. We don't like, okay, that sounds good. I'll go with it. Like,
pull it up, but.
I got no reason, to think different. So I'll just roll with it. Like, sure.
At least, all right. At least he's honest.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's an interesting conversation. It is interesting to me, the example of, I'm going to go back to Indiana, who have outperformed their talent level. And there's a reason why. And when you see college football teams, you see professional football teams, you see political offices that underperform their talent level, it is entirely due to the style and type of leadership. That's it.
100% agree. Yeah. You see it time and time again. Any type of organization that is either underperforming, overperforming, always start with the top. Really dig into the top leaders, whether it's the founder, the CEO. I hate to go to the Jets, but again, the one thing that is the same with the Jets for the last 16 years, they've had multiple head coaches, multiple coaching staffs, is the ownership. And they continually get voted poorly from an organizational standpoint. So I have to say that's where it stems from.
Yeah. I mean, it is it's pretty interesting that when you see the organizations that continually struggle, or, you'll have it's kind of John Maxwell teaches the law of the lid, meaning eventually there is a lid on your capacity to lead. Now, as I've experienced, and he said, you can rise above that by circumstances, just flash in the pan stuff, right? You can go above, but you will come back to that. And I've seen that happen over and over and over again, is you will come back to the level of mature leadership. And when you look around and you look at teams like the Green Bay Packers, who, up, down, whatever, they traditionally have done very well. When you look at the Kansas City Chiefs over the last, 15, 20 years, they've had a lot of success. Yeah. The Steelers, when you look at some of these teams and their perpetual success, when you look at like San Francisco 49ers, when you look at, you look at other teams, the Boston Celtics, you look at some of these organizations that just continually are at the top of their organization. You look at companies the same way. It is their leadership, and it is what it is. So, all right. Any final words, Alex?
No, I mean, exciting. We got some voting coming up, I think, here in the next couple weeks, right? Midterms.
There's going to be some elections, some mayoral. There's some gubernatorial elections coming up here. I don't know if governor elections are coming up this cycle, but here in November.
I think New Jersey. New Jersey governor.
Okay, all right. There are quite a few. It'll be interesting. Of course, we're about halfway through both the professional and college football seasons. As it continues to filter out.
I'm already looking at the draft, Tyler. I'm already looking at the draft, man.
I can understand. I'm not far off. My 2-5 Browns, I was looking through their schedule. I could see how they could get to 8 wins. I could see that. They play the Jets. They play some teams. Now, there's a lot of work to be done, but I could see, and like anything else, injuries determine, and then it comes back to this: how do you treat everyone on the team? And if you're not treating the people that are in the limelight, well, then they're not going to be there for you to perform when you need them. So, with that, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching Newswire. Until next time, make sure that you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to get notified whenever we drop new content, and choose to lead with impact.